In the cold expanse of the galaxy, the Galactic Empire reigned supreme, a dominating force that stretched across countless star systems. For centuries, they had crushed alien species, imposing their will with vast fleets of advanced warships that were the pinnacle of military might. No other civilization had the strength to challenge their rule, and the Empire's dominance was an unshakable fact. Their ships, enormous in size and unmatched in firepower, struck fear into the hearts of every creature that dared to stand in their way. Yet, despite this overwhelming power, the Empire's intelligence network, usually so reliable, began to pick up something strange, an anomaly that shouldn't exist. At first, it was dismissed as a glitch, a misfire in their systems. But the reports kept coming, each one more bizarre than the last. A lone ship, hovering on the very edge of their territory, had been detected. What made it strange, though, was not just its location, but its origins. According to the data, it was a human-made vessel. This could not be right. Humanity, a species that the Empire had long considered primitive and weak, couldn't possibly have the capability to build a warship of any significance, let alone one that could threaten their fleets. The intelligence division worked overtime to decode the transmissions, but the findings were baffling. The ship's design was unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered. At first glance, it appeared to be an ancient craft, with designs that spoke of a long-forgotten past. But then, the weapons it carried were far more advanced than anything the Empire had seen from any other species. Some reports claimed it was a simple relic, a ship of an ancient human war, while others described it as a machine of destruction capable of outmatching even the Empire's most powerful warships. These contradictions only deepened the mystery. Was it possible that humanity, a species that had only recently ventured beyond their own planet, had secretly developed technology far beyond their years? The rumors spread quickly through the Empire's high command, and soon the most senior officers were in a state of alarm. The ship was moving silently, remaining undetected for days, yet it seemed to be growing in strength as it neared the Empire's outermost systems. Reports of Imperial scouts disappearing without a trace reached the command center. Entire fleets had been vanishing in the same region, swallowed by an unknown force. Some said it was a pirate ship, a rebel group that had somehow gained unimaginable power, but the truth was far worse. As the ship drew closer, fear began to take hold in the heart of the Empire. Could this mysterious vessel really be from Earth? The thought seemed impossible. Earth was a small, isolated planet on the edge of the galaxy, a place that had never shown any significant technological advancements. And yet, here it was. This human ship, apparently capable of challenging the might of the Empire. If this were true, if the humans had somehow pulled off the impossible, the consequences for the galaxy would be catastrophic. In an emergency session, the Empire's ruling council gathered and the debate raged on. Some suggested a full-scale offensive, sending entire fleets to destroy the human ship before it could reach their territory. Others argued that this could be a trap. Perhaps it wasn't even a human ship at all. There were whispers of strange, unexplainable phenomena occurring around the ship's movements, things that could not be attributed to any known technology. Could it be something entirely different? Something that the Empire had never faced before? As the discussions grew more heated, the fear of the unknown gripped the Empire's leaders. A single human ship could bring an end to their reign. The once unshakable Empire had always relied on its overwhelming military might, but now, for the first time in centuries, they were confronted by an enemy they could not understand, and possibly could not defeat. The realization slowly dawned on them. The balance of power in the galaxy might be about to shift. The unthinkable had happened. The humans had created something capable of standing against the Empire. The Council made its decision, but it was too late. The human warship had already crossed the final frontier, and its arrival would signal a new chapter in the galaxy's history, one where the might of the Galactic Empire would be tested like never before. The unknown had arrived, and it was human. In a forgotten corner of the galaxy, on a small, hidden human colony, the warship Eclipse hummed quietly, its sleek frame bathed in the cold light of distant stars. Inside, Captain Naomi Riker stood at the bridge, her eyes scanning the latest intelligence reports sent by the Empire. Humanity had been exploring the stars for decades, yet the galaxy still viewed them as little more than insignificant wanderers, barely worthy of attention. The vast empires of the galaxy, led by powerful alien civilizations, looked down on Earth with disdain. Humanity's potential had always been overlooked, dismissed as a minor player on the galactic stage. But now, humanity had a weapon that could change everything, a weapon the galaxy had never expected. The Eclipse was not just a ship, it was the culmination of humanity's sheer determination to survive and thrive, no matter the odds. Built. From the wreckage of alien warships, reverse-engineered technology from fallen enemies, and human ingenuity, the Eclipse was a masterpiece of engineering. No one in the galaxy, not even the Empire, could have anticipated the weapon that now sat ready to strike. For years, Earth had been seen as a backwater, a place where civilizations forgot to look. But under the surface, something had been growing, a quiet, relentless will to fight back against those who thought humanity weak. Now, with the Eclipse, that will was about to be unleashed. Captain Riker knew what was at stake. The Empire's vast fleets outnumbered humanity by the millions, and their technology far outclassed anything Earth had ever known. But what the Empire didn't understand was that humanity had one advantage they couldn't replicate: resilience. The Eclipse wasn't just a ship built for battle, it was a symbol of human defiance. No matter how small or outmatched humans might seem, they would never stop fighting for their place in the galaxy. Naomi's crew, too, shared that resolve. They weren't just soldiers, they were survivors, standing up against an empire that had crushed every other race in its path. They had something to prove, and they would not let fear stop them. The plan was simple: strike first, strike fast, and strike hard. The Empire's intelligence had already picked up the Eclipse's presence, but they still underestimated the true power of the ship. As the Eclipse silently moved through the dark void, Naomi gave orders to keep their course undetected. The Empire's fleets were vast, but they relied too much on their advanced technology, too dependent on brute force. The Eclipse, however, was different. It was stealthy, quick, and unpredictable. Naomi knew that humanity's strength lay in their ability to adapt, to learn from their enemies, and then use that knowledge to outsmart them. But time was running out. The Empire's response would come soon, and when it did, it would be a relentless wave of destruction. Naomi and her crew had no illusions about the dangers they faced, but they were ready. The Eclipse had been built for this moment, forged in the fires of humanity's struggle to be recognized, to be respected. It wasn't just a weapon of war. It was a message to the galaxy. Humanity will no longer be ignored. The Empire would soon learn that a human warship, built from scraps and powered by determination, could turn the tide of galactic history. The tension aboard the Eclipse was palpable. Every crew member knew the gravity of their mission. Many of them had come from colonies on the edge of space, places where survival was a daily struggle. They had lost loved ones, watched their homes burned or consumed by larger empires. For them, this mission was personal. The thought of being crushed by the Empire, of being forgotten by the greater galaxy, fueled their every action. As they prepared for the inevitable clash, Naomi looked out at the stars. Each one represented a world, a people, a life, and it was for them that they fought. The Eclipse was ready. Captain Naomi Riker was ready. The time to prove humanity's place in the galaxy had come. But the galaxy's response was not what anyone expected. As the Empire's ships began to move, Naomi's eyes narrowed, and she gave the order. Chapter Eclipse would strike first, with everything it had. For the first time in the galaxy's history, humanity was no longer the underdog. The eclipse would be their voice, their weapon, and their declaration. They were not just survivors, they were a force to be reckoned with. As the eclipse silently made its way deeper into the Empire's heartland, its advanced stealth systems cloaked it from the Empire's sensors, keeping it hidden from prying eyes. Captain Naomi Riker stood at the helm, eyes focused on the map of stars, feeling a mixture of exhilaration and tension. The crew aboard the Eclipse knew they were close, so close to making their move. The Eclipse was unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered, and they were counting on that element of surprise to carry them through. Yet, as they approached the Empire's most secure space sectors, something strange began to happen. Star systems that should have been bustling with Imperial activity were suddenly going dark. No warning, no signs of distress. Just silence. The Empire's powerful sensors, usually so reliable, couldn't detect what was happening. Ships, whole fleets, simply vanished. The first few disappearances were chalked up to random anomalies or isolated technical glitches. But as the disappearances began to spread, a growing unease settled over the Empire's high command. It wasn't long before they realized the truth. Something or someone was hunting them, and it was terrifyingly efficient. A human warship, operating beyond any reasonable expectation, was lurking in their most secure space sector, and it was already wreaking havoc. What was once thought impossible was unfolding before their eyes. The eclipse had already struck, taking down an Imperial flotilla in mere hours. And what was worse, no one had seen it coming. Fear, once a distant memory for the Empire's commanders, gripped their hearts. This wasn't supposed to happen. How could this small, insignificant human ship, barely a blip on the radar of galactic power, have done something that even their mightiest fleets could not? The Empire's pride was wounded. Their legendary warships, with their devastating firepower, their invincible shields, were suddenly powerless against an enemy they could neither see nor understand. In panic, the Empire's top commanders issued an urgent call for reinforcements, mobilizing their deadliest warships to hunt down the Eclipse and neutralize this threat once and for all. Meanwhile, Naomi and her crew were far from afraid. They knew what they were up against, but they had something the Empire lacked: the power of human ingenuity. The Eclipse wasn't simply a weapon of destruction, it was a symbol of humanity's spirit. The ship's unorthodox design, constructed from scavenged alien technology and driven by the relentless will to survive, made it more than just a machine. It was a living testament to human creativity and adaptability, two qualities the Empire had always underestimated. Naomi's crew wasn't just trained to fight, they were trained to think, to outsmart, and to adapt to any situation. The Empire's fleet, for all its power, relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers. But the Eclipse wasn't going to play by their rules. As the Empire's reinforcements moved into position, expecting to corner and destroy the human ship, Naomi knew this was their moment. It was time to fight back, not with overwhelming force, but with strategy, precision, and cunning. The Eclipse wasn't built for direct confrontation. It was built for agility, for striking where the enemy was weakest. Naomi ordered her crew to engage in high-risk guerrilla tactics. They would strike swiftly, then vanish before the Empire could even react. They would exploit every weakness in the Empire's fleet, drawing them into traps, and using their superior knowledge of the sector to stay one step ahead. The battle began in the most unexpected way. The Eclipse would emerge from the shadows, ambushing an Imperial warship, crippling its engines with an expertly timed strike, and then disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The Empire, used to fighting predictable enemies, found themselves flailing at thin air, unable to match the Eclipse's hit-and-run tactics. Every time they thought they had the human ship cornered, it would vanish once again, leaving nothing but the debris of destroyed Imperial vessels in its wake. The Eclipse's weapons, while not as powerful as those of the Empire, were perfectly suited to the task. The ship's advanced EMP systems scrambled Imperial communication, disorienting them and sowing chaos within their ranks. Naomi's crew exploited this confusion, picking off the Empire's ships one by one, outwitting them at every turn. The Eclipse wasn't just fighting with firepower, it was fighting with brains. Each battle was a chess match, and the Empire's pieces were being taken off the board one by one. Fear began to grip the Empire's commanders once again as they realized they were being outmaneuvered by a human ship, something they thought was impossible. The once proud Empire had never faced an enemy that fought this way, constantly adapting, always on the move, striking where least expected. With every passing moment, Naomi and her crew were proving that, for all its might, the Empire could be beaten. And with each successful strike, they sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the underdog. The Eclipse was a force to be reckoned with, and it would not back down. The Empire, seething with anger and fear, finally deployed its full force. A massive armada, the largest ever assembled in the Empire's history, surged toward the Eclipse, ready to end the threat humanity posed once and for all. It was an overwhelming show of might. Colossal warships bristling with weapons, fleets of smaller attack craft, and squadrons of elite fighters all converging in a single, unstoppable wave. But what the Empire did not expect was the one thing that set humanity apart: ingenuity. As the armada neared, Naomi Riker stood at the bridge, watching the massive fleet on the view screen, her mind already working out the strategy. She had seen enough of the Empire's tactics to know they would rely on brute force and overwhelming numbers, expecting a direct confrontation. But Naomi had something different in mind. The Eclipse wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of the unpredictable, chaotic brilliance that made humanity unique. Unlike the cold, calculated alien tactics that followed predictable patterns, humans fought with raw emotion, intuition, and an instinct for survival that was impossible to predict. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this. As the two forces clashed, a massive space battle unfolded, the likes of which had never been seen before. The Empire's fleets, vast and powerful, expected to dominate quickly, but they quickly found themselves caught off guard. The Eclipse danced through their lines, a blur of motion and strategy, striking where the Empire least expected. Naomi's crew performed near-impossible maneuvers, twisting the ship in ways that defied the rigid tactics of the Empire. The Eclipse's advanced EMP weapons disabled Imperial ships with a single, expertly timed pulse, jamming their communication systems and scrambling their targeting systems. Chaos spread like wildfire through the Imperial lines. With their ships unable to communicate or coordinate, the Empire's vast fleet became disoriented, colliding with one another in a series of violent accidents. The Empire's commanders, trained to respond to predictable patterns of war, could not counter the unpredictable human ingenuity that now threatened to destroy them. It was like trying to box with a shadow. Every time they thought they had the Eclipse in their sights, it was already gone, striking somewhere else. The Empire's might was being overwhelmed, not by superior technology or firepower, but by something far more dangerous: resourcefulness. Naomi had taken full advantage of every unorthodox piece of technology aboard the Eclipse. She used alien weapons in ways they were never meant to be used, turning their own technology against them. The Eclipse fired blasts of energy that disrupted entire swarms of Imperial fighters, making them crash into one another in chaotic disarray. Naomi's crew moved with precision, executing flawless evasions and retaliations. Each strike was a lesson in human resilience, each tactic an embodiment of their spirit to survive against overwhelming odds. The Empire, once so certain of its dominance, found itself scrambling, with no time to adapt to the unpredictable storm that was the Eclipse. As the battle reached its climax, the Empire realized they had no choice but to commit their final weapon, their flagship, the Imperium. This massive warship was the pride of the Empire, its flagship brimming with more firepower than any other ship in their fleet. It was said that no ship could stand against the Imperium, that it was invincible. But Naomi had prepared for this moment. The Eclipse would face its greatest test in the form of the Imperium, and both ships would unleash their full arsenals in a cataclysmic showdown. The two ships collided in the heart of the battle, and the cosmos itself seemed to tremble as their weapons tore through space. The Imperium fired devastating energy beams, but the Eclipse was quick, dodging and weaving with a grace that defied its size. Naomi and her crew pushed the Eclipse to its limits, engaging in a deadly dance of evasions and counterattacks, their every move a desperate gamble. The Eclipse fired its own weapons, ancient and experimental, striking with precision at the Imperium's vulnerable points. The energy blasts from both ships collided in a blinding explosion, sending shockwaves through space. For a brief moment, everything seemed to hang in the balance. The Eclipse had pushed the Imperium to its limits, but so had the Imperium pushed the Eclipse. Both ships were battered, their hulls scarred from the fierce exchange. Naomi's hands gripped the controls with an intensity that matched the chaos outside. This was the moment, the final stand for humanity's place in the galaxy. The battle raged on, each side determined to win, to prove that they were the rightful rulers of the stars. As the two titans clashed in the void of space, it became clear that this would not be a simple victory for the Empire. The Eclipse had already done what no one thought possible. It had exposed the vulnerability of the Empire. Now, Naomi and her crew would fight until the very end, using everything they had to ensure that humanity would no longer be a forgotten race in the galaxy. They would show the Empire that it was not just strength that mattered, but will, determination, and the ability to think beyond the expected. This battle was not just for survival, it was for humanity's future. In the final, heart-stopping moments of the battle, Captain Naomi Riker and her crew of the Eclipse faced the greatest challenge. Yet, the Imperium, the pride of the Empire, loomed before them, its massive weapons charging for a decisive strike. The battle had raged on for hours, both ships battered and scarred from their relentless exchange of fire. But Naomi had known from the beginning that this moment would come. The Eclipse was humanity's final answer to the Empire's tyranny. And now, as the Imperium unleashed another devastating barrage of energy, Naomi's voice rang out, calm and resolute. "All hands, prepare for the final strike." The Eclipse, already pushed to its limits, had no intention of retreating. The battle had already shattered the Empire's notion of invincibility. But this was the moment that would prove humanity's resolve. With precision and skill honed through every previous engagement, Naomi and her crew launched a series of devastating counterattacks, exploiting the weaknesses they had studied in the Imperium's defenses. The human warship surged forward, maneuvering with a grace and agility that made it seem like a living creature, intent on survival. As the Imperium fired its weapons, the Eclipse dodged with a skill no other ship could match, its ancient and experimental tech working in perfect harmony with human ingenuity. Every move was calculated, every maneuver designed to create the perfect opening. Then, in a flash of brilliant energy, the Eclipse's EMP weapons fired once again, hitting the Imperium with pinpoint accuracy. The massive flagship shuddered as its systems went haywire, its communication and navigation systems faltering under the unexpected onslaught. For a moment, the great warship was adrift, vulnerable. Naomi's crew, fully aware of the opportunity, pushed the Eclipse to its final limits, sending it straight into the heart of the Imperium. With one last devastating strike, the Eclipse disabled the flagship completely, its once proud hull now lifeless in the cold void of space. The Empire's flagship, once thought untouchable, lay disabled, a broken symbol of their dominance. The Imperium drifted, silent and broken, The Empire's fleet scattered. Their forces, already demoralized and confused, saw the fate of their greatest warship, and panic set in. The surviving ships began to retreat, their once unified might now in disarray. The Empire's commanders, who had once thought themselves untouchable, were now left scrambling for a way to save what remained of their fleets. But it was too late. The eclipse had proven its point. It had shown that humanity, against all odds, could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces in the galaxy. And with that single decisive victory, humanity had changed the course of history. Across the galaxy, news of the eclipse's triumph spread like wildfire. The galactic community, which had long looked down on humanity as an insignificant species, watched in awe as the human warship had defeated the Empire's finest. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity not as a small, unimportant race, but as a force to be reckoned with. The eclipse had done more than win a battle. It had shattered the image of the Empire as an unstoppable juggernaut. In its wake, humanity was no longer seen as just a survivor. It was a true player on the galactic stage. In the aftermath, the Empire, once a symbol of unchallenged might, was left to pick up the pieces. Its power was shaken, its reputation tarnished. The surviving factions within the Empire would have to rebuild, but the path forward was uncertain. The eclipse had not only destroyed their flagship, but it had also destroyed the notion that the Empire's power could never be challenged. And the galaxy, watching from the shadows, now knew that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. For Naomi and her crew, their mission was far from over. The eclipse had proven that humanity could face the greatest threats the galaxy had to offer and emerge victorious. But beyond that, the ship had become a symbol of what humanity could achieve when driven by the will to survive. The warship was more than a tool of destruction. It was a testament to human potential, to creativity, adaptability, and determination. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of, and the message was clear: humanity would not be underestimated again. And as the eclipse sailed through the stars, leaving the remnants of the Empire behind, Naomi knew that this was just the beginning. The battle had been won, but a new era had dawned. The galaxy had been forever changed, and humanity had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, was too great to overcome. The future, for the first time in centuries, was wide open for humanity to shape. And in time, it might even lead the galaxy, for the eclipse had shown the stars what human spirit and ingenuity could accomplish.